ask you to move around a couple more times. You're going to see me move around because I'm going to show you how I try to maintain control of an iPad classroom. Now, of course, this isn't going to simulate it, and two things that I want you to, actually three things now that I think about it, I'd like you to think about. Number one, I have a particular classroom structure and layout, so it's good to think about how it would work in your classroom and the layout. Little things like bringing people up to the center table, how would you do that with a larger class than 5 or in a different setup? The other thing is, already the lesson has been compromised, and this is one of those things, always have a backup plan. The lesson, what was supposed to be happening right now is I was going to ask you to come up and talk about the Will Richardson video, which is on the front page of the website, which I don't know if you have had a chance to see yet. This is something else we're going to talk about. I'm trying to model, a couple people asked me about this, how can you use Google Sites to do a professional development seminar or session? So this is just a model, and that's why we put our pictures up here and things like this. And hopefully, yeah, it works with Google. Google still works. This was the idea, and this is something else we're going to be talking about. How can you flip professional development? And so this was the hope that people would watch these videos and read these articles before coming into the lesson and the session so that they would be prepared to talk about this. But one of the tips I was going to give is never ask people to look at something that's critical to the professional development session, because you can't rely on teachers to do the preliminary research and actually look at these things. You know, they say doctors are the worst patients and teachers are the worst students. There's probably some truth to that, so don't rely on that. Not that I would have done it the same. And this is why, for example, I had choices in descending order. Please talk about the Will Richardson video or the recommended articles, or your general concerns and questions about teaching in the iPad mobile device classroom, because if nobody had watched this or read this, we could always rely on this, okay? But I'm going to jump back into this because the other thing we have to think about is, what am I doing now that the network isn't working? So I'm going to adjust this right now. And the first part is a presentation. Now what I would like you to do, please, is put your lids down. Okay? Because we're going to go and we're going to take a look at this quote. And Joyce, can you please read that quote for everybody?
The belief that all genuine education comes about through experience does not mean that all experiences are genuinely or equally educated.
Okay, can you please turn and talk to the people to your left and right? Joyce, can you talk to the other group, not the group you talked to last time? How do you think that this quote from John Dewey could possibly apply to the use of instructional technology mobile devices in your own classroom? Anyone, any thoughts, any comments how this might apply to what we're doing, especially for those of you who are in the middle school or teach middle school, which is everybody except for me and Denise, right? Everybody else teaches middle school? You might want to think about how this applies to the middle school implementation of the iPad program. Any thoughts?
I'm excited to work on my piece because we can start with the usual sketchbooks, we can use the tools and not just rely on paper. We can have something digital. We can make create a portfolio too in a different manner. But I still want to have paper. I just want to use iPad as another tool. We can do research, like they compare and contrast images at the same time. We can work with art criticism in a faster way because they'll be able to see close-ups, things that are hard. Even if you have the data show, we cannot show all the details. So if I can work depending on the sites, like Google's project, our project, we can have the close-ups and then it will be easy for the kids to see brush strokes, capture, and we can investigate.
Right. And I think the good point there is that you started by talking about the sketching, the imaging, the portfolio, all of these things. But that's where you start from, so that iPad becomes a tool to do what you're already doing and what you want to focus on, rather than the iPad is not the end itself. It's the means to the end. It's how you do these things better and more concretely. Does anybody have anything else?
I agree. It's just one more tool. I don't want to think that it's not a solution. I don't think, but I think it provides another option. And it does.
And I would even argue, if you don't use it as a tool, if you get into the iPad classroom and then you're not integrating it directly into your previous goals, what you want to accomplish, that's where the most danger comes in for students to go off the topic, right? I mean, to get distracted and to not pay attention and just use it as a game. But if you do integrate it directly into those essential questions and those goals and those objectives you have, it's totally fine. And you maintain more control over it. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about. The teaching doesn't change. It's just a little bit of a tool, but it's a tool that can become destructive to classroom order very, very easily if it's not integrated properly.